In this video, I'm going to be playing as Dominic Torreto, a family man, a Vlandian family man, and after the raid on his village, he's now an orphan, and using family, one day he will become the King of England. But today, ladies and gentlemen, I will be playing Mountain Blade Bannerlord, modless, naked, you might say. I've done this before, I've done it many times, I've done it as every culture, and what I might say right now is, I have a need for speed, and it's gonna be fast and furious. That's right, we're playing as the Vlandians, which are Carl Radia's version of the French, or you could see them as pre-English, as I do. Because you see, I have a plan of conquest. William the Conqueror invaded England in 1066, and if you can't tell by his name, he conquered it. He went from a Norman duke to the King of England. I, as a man of Vlandia, will conquer Battiania and become the English, or the Kingdom of England. Now, Norman knights were famously effective warriors all over medieval Europe. Mounted warriors, that is. And very conveniently, Vlandia has the best heavy cavalry in the game. You could say they're fast, you could say they're furious, and also they deeply care about family. Yes, that's right, not only are we taking inspiration from the Norman invasion of England, we're also role-playing as Dominic Torreto, the family man, and one of the lead characters in the Fast and Furious franchise. But as we all know, he couldn't do it without, yeah that's right, he couldn't do it without family. Now, I'm going to give it to you like a D&D character sheet. Let me lay out our protagonist skills. He's fast, he's furious, he can say I am Groot in many different ways, he's aerodynamic, but most importantly, he cares very much about family. And well, family's pretty powerful, maybe even powerful enough to go to space. Not in this one. Welcome to Fast and Furious Bannerlord Edition. And it begins. We started in campaign mode because it gives us a family straight off the bat. And obviously, family is very important. But the first real step was recreating Vin Diesel using the character creation tool. I basically just created a bald buff gentleman, which I would consider an accurate description of Mr. Diesel. I played the tutorial with no issues. After, we needed to establish ourselves and our family. Speaking of family, let me introduce you to Jacob, Mia, and Brian, which are all names of relatives according to Google. Now, we first needed to grow our warband, and we were going to focus heavily on the Vlandian heavy cavalry that I spoke about earlier. And so, we made our way to the lands of Vlandia and started recruiting the lowest tier of the Vlandian knight troop tree, the Squire. But with experience, and at the cost of a warhorse, we could upgrade them to the Vlandian Gallant, which, eventually, would mature into a Vlandian Banner Knight. We spent many weeks fighting small bands of looters and other criminal types. We also took on a few quests from notables in many different towns and villages, and now at this point my troops had much better equipment than me. I did what I could, but with limited skills and poor weaponry, I could only do so much. Left with no other choice, I had to shell out some of my hard-earned coins for new armour to provide me with a little bit more protection and a whole lot more style. I mean, the drip was off the charts. And not to sideline the drip or anything, but we did get a new horse. One that would allow us to go faster than before. But would it satiate Dom's obsessive need for speed? No, but we were indeed a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield now. Not by anyone of actual importance, but the criminal types of the world would now run at the mere sight of my banner, which is a horse, because, well, it wouldn't make sense to have a car, and what's the alternative? A cart? Well, I mean, a cart, that's just not fast or furious enough. But a horse? A majestic stallion, that's pretty fast and furious. After impaling a few more less desirables with my new lance, an opportunity arose. A tournament in the town of Jacqueline. This would be a way to kill two birds with one stone. We'd make money from the bets we place on ourselves, and then we'd win a brand new Assigat, a horse much faster than mine, and with great monetary value. But it wasn't to be. What's this? Another opportunity. A fight in the back streets, you say? Well, we can't show up and not show out. So we headed to the nearest tailor's to purchase ourselves a new backstreet murder outfit. And then we waited 2 whole days for the fight. And on the second night, we were called upon by the crime boss we had aligned ourselves with. We met the other gang on a random back street. I locked eyes with an enemy henchman. I could see he was trying to seduce me, undressing me with his eyes. And when I didn't falter, he attempted to bribe me into breaking my oath. I said no. We then proceeded to get stuck in. I slayed many men by stabbing them in the back, which can be strategically described as a flanking maneuver, or as cowardly. I think I'll stick to strategically sound doctrine. After the job was done, we were paid 770 coins, so we could have got double if we'd betrayed him. But I'll remember that for the next time. After that fiasco, I decided to recruit more men so we could take on large contracts from notables. The first and last of these missions was as simple as escorting a caravan. I figured we could do this. We had 23 good men, more than half were mounted knights. This should be a cakewalk, or should I say cake trot? And the first fight was, and so was the second. It was the third where I lost concentration for a second, and in that long second, the caravan was attacked and defeated by a warband of raiders. As soon as I'd realised my error, we attacked the party, and after some fierce fighting, we killed or captured all enemy combatants. But after the trauma of losing the caravan that I had sworn an oath to protect, I was feeling somewhat lost, and I was considering becoming a mercenary for hire, when all of a sudden, the King of Vlandia sent me the medieval equivalent of a poke on Facebook and requested that I join Vlandia in service as a mercenary. I agreed, as it instantly made me made me forget about the caravan that I had watched disappear from existence. Anyway, now it's time for us to commit ourselves and our swords to the war against Stratagy. We started the war strong, joining the siege of Vassal. Unfortunately, I was riddled with arrows before I could even climb the siege ladder. So this was a fight only my men took part in, but it's the thought that counts. Even though I had gone down rather quickly, this would net me influence, which in turn would net me money, which equals power. Money is power, and currently we need money. We aren't strong enough to take on even the smaller Stygian war parties, and we definitely aren't strong enough to attack caravans or raid villages. Yet. So, we needed to join armies and with other Vlandian war parties to get some loot, to level up our men and make some cash money. As we left Varcheg, we were caught by a large army of 500 Stygians. But we were luckily nearby to an even larger army of Vlandians. We were so injured from the last battle that we were forced to auto-resolve, which ended with a Vlandian victory. It was also a very nice boost to our coin reserves. We then participated in another siege of a castle not too far from Varcheg. We managed to actually get onto the walls, but we were one of the first, which led to us being surrounded and then cut down quite brutally. After I decided that we had enough money in the bank to head back to the lands of Vlandia and recruit more men, but whilst in Vlandia, I decided that it was time to reduce the fat of our party. We got rid of any unit not equipped with a horse, because we need to go fast. We need to be fast and furious. Currently, with all these infantrymen, we aren't fast enough to catch the caravans, but when I remove all of the infantrymen, all of a sudden, we're zooming. We zoomed back to the warfront where we found an army with only 79 men, and they were surrounded by friendly parties. So we pounced on them, and after multiple furious cavalry charges, they were all dead. We were then approached by our greatest enemy of the tutorial. Radagast, the kidnapper, slaver, scumbag, had information on where my sister and brother were. So, I couldn't kill him. Yet. I arrived at the bandit lair where my brother and sister were being kept, and if there's one thing you should never do, it's mess with my family. I took down the leader of the bandits, and it was finished. Radagast executes him, and then, for justice, I executed Radagast, because, well, he kidnapped my brother and sister, originally with the guy he just executed. Yeah, can't really be trusted. And also, you know, fuck that guy. After that dirty business, my brother took them to the nearest town to look after them. It was then time to educate the little fuckers, and I chose skills that would make them great companions / party leaders in the future, like leadership, stewardship, and not to forget skill points in weapons. After rescuing my family, I sensed a newfound confidence. Must be that family power I've been talking about. We saw a warband of 64 men, and I measured them up against my 57, and I thought my men would 100% win. So we attacked, and after cavalry charge, after cavalry charge, after cavalry charge, finally defeated them, and took their leader captive. We could ransom him off for cash, or execute him. Probably not going to execute him. Whilst on our way back to town to sell our loot, we saw an ongoing battle between two similarly sized armies. We chose to get involved to gain both renown and influence. Our contingent of heavy cavalry was the deciding factor in this fight. Most of the enemy army are low level and don't have spears, so we could charge through their lines and then back around for an attack in the flank. By the time the infantry had engaged, most of the enemy army was already retreating. We then continued to pick out weaker opponents like caravans, lonely lords that weren't ready for a fight, and after reaching clan rank 2, I could recruit even more men, and I thought it was time to recruit some infantry to complement our cavalry. So I headed back to the lands of our people and recruited as many men as my party could hold. I then thought it's time to try my luck at raiding a village. We slaughtered the village militia without issue, and then I had to keep my concentration because although we defeated the militia, we'd have to run if a force larger than mine approached. Luckily, no force approached. We then attacked a small Stygian warband and used our superior speed and tactics to overcome the outnumbered enemy. These fights are getting pretty easy, especially when we outnumber them. And after that fight, now I felt we'd arrived at yet another crossroad. After Vlandia declared peace with Stratagy, it left me with a decision to make. I could remain a mercenary for the Kingdom of Vlandia and watch my coin reserves slowly deplete, or look for a new employer, one currently at war, so that we can participate and make some cold hard cash money. The Southern Empire was currently involved in multiple wars, which would allow us much more freedom as in which faction we choose to fight, rather than only fighting with shield-walled Vikings. I used my cavalry heavy warband to catch caravans that usually would be too quick for us. What's this? A marriage proposal for Jacob, a woman from the steppe, you say. She has a horse, right? I see no reason why not. Let your marriage produce many offsprings. I then saw that Vlandia was yet again at war, so this was the perfect time to end my contract with the Empire and rejoin Vlandia so I could get my clout. I feel like now I'm in a position to make some moves. The Torreto family needed renown to level up to the next clan rank, which would give us the ability to have more men in the party, and once we reach clan rank 4, we'd be able to set up our own kingdom, in our case, the Kingdom of England. The best way to obtain renown is by fighting and winning battles, and I'm not 100% sure on the exact breakdown of how renown is rewarded, but I think that it's based on the amount of men that are in the battle on each side and the quality of the men fighting, and maybe if it's a siege or a field battle. There's probably somebody out there on YouTube that's already broken it down, so go and watch that if you want to know how to get renown fast, because I don't know that. This took me like a whole 24 hours of footage to do, so I'm not good at this game. I'm okay, but I'm not good. You definitely get more for winning siege battles. Unfortunately, we aren't in a position right now to be able to be sieging anything. So, field battles were the way forward. Many field battles. None of the battles were particularly difficult, and if I was to include every battle I've fought, then this video would already be an hour long, which nobody wants. It's unnecessary. So I'll condense the rest of my time spent as a mercenary and then as a vassal of Vlandia into the next 2 minutes. And after winning battle after battle after battle, using Dom's speed and the power of family to kill thousands of enemy combatants, we were now at a point where armies of men would run from my banner, and the only logical next step was to become a vassal of Vlandia, which gives us the ability to call the banners and raise an army, which I love because, see, with armies I can have direct control over all of the men in that army, and if the party leaders in the army belong to your clan, they cost 0 influence to recruit to that army. But you may be thinking, absurd, what about cohesion? Cohesion smohesion. Normally, an army has a cohesion bar that lowers every day that the army is gathered, and the only way to increase the cohesion is to spend influence. But as long as everyone in the army is of Clan Torreto, we can field an army indefinitely, as it costs 0 influence to regain the cohesion. Not to mention the fact that having my clan parties in an army gives me passive influence, which will come in useful later. I was then awarded a castle right next to Battiania, which would make an excellent staging point for our invasion. In fact, we were also given multiple fiefs down at the bottom of the map in Azari territory, the desert. Not exactly an ideal invasion spot for Battiania, so we kept them at skeleton garrisons, meaning that I just didn't put any men in there. So it minimised our outgoings, which was necessary because we were trying to save a large sum of money, because we were going to need at least a few 100,000 coins to start our own kingdom. And after many in-game months, we were a few battles away from clan rank 4, meaning soon our plan would come together. And now seemed like a good time. Omor had rebelled against the Vlandians, meaning we could take it back for them, or we could also take it for ourselves and hope that the renown from the siege would be enough to push us over the edge to clan rank 4. So I did a quick check, and yes, I do indeed still have massive balls. So we left Vlandia, renounced our lands and titles, and attacked a party of rebels to declare war against them, which was an absolute slaughter. So I attacked another party of rebels and slaughtered them too. We then began sieging the town. I made sure we had the artillery advantage and began our assault. Our current army consists of mostly cav and infantry, which means that we need to get in the castle as soon as possible, because of our lack of archers. We couldn't use the ladders because they had more archers, so I controlled the main bulk of the army myself and led them directly to the main gate. I ordered the men to attack the gate in order to speed along the ramming. The ram soon arrived. The gate fell after a few hits. We poured on through and began cutting down the militia of the town. I, with my double-handed sword and a handful of men, protected the flank of the main force for a time until the threat was defeated. We then cleared the rest of the town and completed our conquest, and the battle gave us just enough renown to be able to found our own kingdom, the Kingdom of England. You may be thinking, why did you take a more? Your goal is to take all of Battiania. And well, sweet child, it's because it was an easy target and it allowed us to branch off on our own. But we don't intend to keep it. Dominic Torreto's work is far from over. We may have the title, but we most definitely do not have the land. But we will. We first declared war on Battiania and took Elfheim Castle? I don't know. After taking the castle was besieged by an army too large for us to take on. So we abandoned the fortress and allowed them to take it, because it's better to lose land than lose too many men trying to keep it. And after a few days, we came back to an almost empty castle and took it back with ease. We were then declared war on by Stratagy. Now we have enough influence to change some of our kingdom policies. We added Royal Guard, which adds an extra 60 slots to our party. State monopolies, which increases the tax of our settlements by 5%, also decreasing workshop production, but I have no workshops, so. And finally, noble retinues, which increases the party size of tier 5 clan leaders by 40, which wouldn't affect us right now. Once we reach clan rank 5, we'll have an extra 40 men at our command. And while I was looking at my big map and planning out the conquest, our castle was attacked yet again, and we had to swoop in to protect our gains. We defeated them swiftly, but we were then faced with an even greater adversary, an army of Vikings at our gates. The numbers were even on both sides, even slightly in our favour, but we stood no chance of defending the castle because one of the walls from the last capture of the fortress had not been rebuilt yet due to the onslaught of besieging armies. If we sallied out, we stood a chance. One of our cavalrymen on the field is worth 5 of their men, but in a siege that awesome potential is snuffed out by the lack of the thing that makes them most special. Bringing them down to the ground, their feet in the mud, makes them just men. Luckily, we've got 2024's answer to Hannibal Barker in Dominic Torreto. He's got a need for speed. Well, actually he doesn't, that's a different franchise, but this one does. Watch me satiate that need on the battlefield. And whilst you watch some cheeky war crimes, let me just say thank you for watching so far into the video. I'd ask you to subscribe, but if you've not already, you've just wasted 20 minutes of your day. Either way, there's a lot of other shit you could have done with this time, and I appreciate you lending me your eyes and your ears for this long. Or one or the other. Either way, thank you very much. Back to the video. No, I just did some calculations in my head, and if I don't start really making some big board, big player moves, this video will go on indefinitely, and I will be playing Bannerlord for the next 2.5 years, maybe 1 with good behaviour. So I developed some alterations to the plan. Well, I say that, but I've kind of just had an idea this whole time, and I've improvised from there, as all great MacGrubers should. It's a reference to an SNL skit. Anyway, but I realised that holding this castle didn't have an upside. We weren't making an income from it, we were locked in position trying to defend it. So we abandoned the fortress for the foreseeable future, and then proceeded to capture Senon in a one-sided siege, because I had hoped this town might bring in some money to offset the cost of my army. And as I went to recruit from the nearby villages, Battiania sent an army to besiege us, 1,000 men strong. I arrived back to Senon and managed to slip through the siege, re-enter the town, and then use some less than honourable means to dispatch the enemy. All I'm saying is, if you don't want to die, move around at least a little bit, at least try and dodge. But no, they just led me. They're just standing there, letting me rain fiery pots of death upon them. And when I ran out of pots, I led a band of warriors to attack the enemy from behind. We caused a mass rout amongst the opposing army. Yet again, given no time to breathe, a Stygian army approached, and I think now is an excellent time to talk about the diversification of my army over the past few in-game months/years. Because of the areas that us old English folk have been spending our time around, we now have a Battianian archery contingent, kind of like Welsh longbows, and all of the Battianian infantry. I think it's obvious why I have them. 3 letters for you. CCF? No? Convenient cannon fodder? Battianian sent an army 788 men strong to recapture it from us. Yet again, I made the tactical decision to fight on my army's turn and went to meet them in the field. Our cavalry provided speed and manoeuvrability that the enemy could not match, and their bows, now turned against them, provided a ranged advantage that left them outmatched and overcome, and it led to us overcoming them quite quickly. After spending a whole winter defending Senon from siege, a way out appeared, in a need for replacement knights, as our cavalry was looking dangerously depleted, and after Vlandia declared war on us, Callius? I don't know. Castle on the other side of Battianian territory would be a perfect place to expand from, as the villages provide Vlandian squires. So we began by besieging the castle and scaled the walls and took the castle. We then moved on to Ormenfard Castle, and then Drummer. That's it, that's probably not it. I decided that the next step was to take a town. We took Pencanon with relative ease, but the trick was keeping it. I decided that we need to take a revolt from Vlandia because it's in a very defensible position. So we besieged revolt, and it was then that I realised I could actually take this whole section of Vlandia and have a nice base of income producing towns from which to expand from. But before we could do that though, we needed to retake Ormenfard Castle from those bastard Frenchmen, Vlandians, I mean. We had to press pause on our expansion, consolidate our gains, defeat the besieging armies. After dealing with that small inconvenience, Brian, my brother, came of age. Brian is now of age. My Brian, my son, no, my brother, my young brother is no longer my young brother, he's a man. My young brother is a man. God, he's small, isn't he, mate? So not only does this mean that I'll be taking him down to the local brothel to make him a man, it means little Brian is going to start fighting alongside us, and maybe one day I'll give him his own warband to run. But for now, I shall keep him close, but not too close, as that trip to the brothel may or may not have ended in a particularly nasty strain of medieval herpes. It'll be alright, I'm sure. We then moved to secure the rest of the north of Vlandia, because as long as Vlandia is a threat, we are unable to invade Battiania safely. And as we all know, Dom's all about safety, and family, and speed. Hey, whoa, not that kind of speed. After capturing the north, we pushed southwards and forced the Vlandians into a peace deal. The Empire, and I can call them that now because the Empire is now just one empire, not the southern, northern or eastern, it's just one, because it's been united under one faction, and are now the biggest faction in the game, and the largest danger to us. So we made peace with them, agreeing to pay an exorbitant amount of money each day. But even though it was a large tribute, it was worth it. It would allow us to expand without the pressure of the Empire. Now we're just in debt. A little bit, it's fine though, it's cool. We've got loads of money in the bank, it should be alright. But mostly it would mean that we're not fighting on multiple fronts. We could concentrate our forces on what was really important, bounding our territory, rather than alternative constantly fighting defensive battles to keep hold of our fiefs. Not to say we won't defend our territory, and the best way to hold on to territory is to make sure that it's well defended before you go to war. So I thought, why not make peace with all of our enemies to give us some breathing space to build up our forces? And once our garrisons were built up in some of our towns and castles, they would be less easy for the enemy to capture. I promoted one of my companions to the rank of Lord and gave them a castle so that I could have access to even more men. I then began courting a few lords from other kingdoms. A few gas station handy jays later, and we managed to coerce a foreign lord to our court. We did this via charisma and the sexual favours I spoke on previously. But in actual fact, if you just talk to them real nice, they'll join your faction if you've got a high enough charisma level. I assembled the Dragon Banner, which is a part of the story that I haven't really mentioned, and that theme will very much continue as I witnessed a miracle. It was a fast and furious Christmas miracle, which I, Dom Torreto, pledged allegiance to me, Dominic Torreto. And after that doppelganger incident, it was time to declare war yet again. And I waited for the enemy to attack us, because, well, sweet child, the enemy, even with our recent recruitment drive, outnumbers us overall. But if I can force the enemy into a trap, we have a good chance of defeating the Battanians in a decisive battle that will allow us to push into their territory. I began to lay our trap. We first left a castle undefended, for the most part as a juicy target the AI simply couldn't pass up. They sent over 1,400 men to capture the castle from us. Little did they know they were playing right into our hands. We engaged the enemy, but as they were the ones attacking our walled settlement, it put them on the offensive. I set up my army to defend a bridge. I placed the archers on the left so that they could rain fire on the enemy, whilst my infantry engaged the main force of their army. Our cavalry couldn't do much, being on a bridge and all, but they played their part. We defeated the first wave sound, but the second wave was a close call. We opened up our ranks to allow our cavalry through, and it also allowed our archers to fire more efficiently for a few seconds. The overpowering rate of fire caused the enemy to rout, which opened up their backs to the fire, leading to mass casualties amongst the enemy army. After this great victory, we began pushing deep into enemy territory, fighting offensive battles and sieges. We were constantly on the attack, trying to expand our lines as quickly as our armies could march. Each battle could have been our last, but we couldn't lose. They all went our way, each and every one. Now I could say this is due to my undeniable skills as a commander, but I actually think it's down to the quality of my army and the strategy I've used to make their quality stand out, and my undeniable skills as a commander. But clearly, others now see my growing kingdom as a threat, as the outrageous payments that must not have satisfied their greed and lust for power. We're now back to fighting on multiple fronts, but now I'm not so bothered. We can raise around 1,200 men. For the last few battles, we fielded around 1,000, give or take a few hundred, because of casualties. But to be fair, I don't blame them for seeing Dominic as a threat, because he is. His cavalry are known far and wide for their furiosity and speed. But you know one thing he's missing? This family man is missing a family. An immediate family, that is. I'm talking a wife and child. So I made a quick peace deal with the Battianians so that I could arrange a marriage with a powerful Battianian noble for his daughter's hand. Little did he know, I was actually trying to get in his pants. As your friend, I give you my word that I won't breathe a word to anyone else about this conversation. Don't know why I said it like that. Critical success, he loves it. He loves it. He's into it. Caladog is not known for keeping his word. Oh, yes, you might be correct. Very well, you convinced me there's something I can... And after a few glasses of ale and sweet conversation, seduced him to my side. I then seduced another with my charm and witty banter. Critical success. Come on. This guy's with it. This guy's with it. What's this? A marriage proposal for Sweet Bry. Sweet Brian. The offer came from a Vlandian family, so I agreed, as it is my culture after all. I then decided that it was time to take the fiefs currently under the control of outside influences, like the Empire and the Aserai. These dogs invaded Battiania when I had already crushed their armies countless times on the battlefield. They were wounded like an animal, and the wolves, they came for the scraps, and I've got to say, I ain't for giving up no scraps. So here's the plan, to avoid losing, obviously. How do we do that? I hear you thinking, well, let's just say it's going to involve speed and aggression. Or should I say we need to be furious? So like Fast and Furious? Y'all ready for this? Our plan is to siege the castles and towns as fast as possible. We would build the siege camp and then instantly attack. No equipment, just ladders and pure speed. Although on that first siege, I did get a little too overconfident. I grabbed more than I could handle. The second castle was taken quicker. It was then that the rebels at Pencannon needed to be subjugated, and we proceeded to do so with brutal efficiency. But once we had Pencannon under our control, the Empire sent an army 1,000 men strong. Luckily, we had almost 1,200. Our cavalry division met theirs on a hill. I then moved our infantry forward in a shield wall formation, and then used our cavalry division to attack them from behind and crush the enemy's spirit, which worked, and led to all the enemy combatants fleeing the field. We then found Caladog, the leader of the Battanians, out in the field, at the head of an enemy host. We slaughtered their army, again with brutal efficiency, and took many prisoners. I decided it was time to finish the Battanians off, but we were still fighting wars on multiple fronts, so I decided to make peace with the other factions, offering to pay tribute. And then we moved to take another Battanian fortress. Using siege works makes taking a castle way less casualty heavy. When we sieged Senon, it required an artillery superiority that our archers just couldn't give us. Archers don't mean shit when there is a tower at the back of the castle catapulting fire pods. Our arty's job is to kill their arty before the fighting even starts. It also makes nice big holes in the walls, which are much more convenient entrances than using ladders or rams to get through a tiny little gate. The fighting was close quarters brutality. So brutal in fact that I almost died twice, and then I did die. But it gave me a very cinematic view of the action, so I'm not too fussed. Once Senon was taken, Finlog Castle, entered my sights. The siege was over quickly, for me, because I died, again, pretty much as soon as I got there, but it's fine. And whilst all this was going on, Vlandia, the sneaky bastards, at some point had declared war on us, and they'd actually managed to capture quite a lot of our towns and cities whilst our backs were turned. For example, they tried to take the castle we literally just took. Those cheeky French bastards. On guard! Dead Frenchmen. And then they tried again. Same castle. More dead Frenchmen. We then retook Pencannon with our speed tactics. We were inside the castle faster than you can say.
Oh no! Oh no! They're coming in through the back door! Oh no! Oh no! Grab the children! Save the children!
I then travelled around recruiting more men to the army. We then strolled into Pendrick Castle and besieged Carbaneth. No idea if that's how you say it, but that's what we're going with. And after sending some of my army to recruit new men because our forces were depleted at this point, I thought we could still take the town even with a minimal force. But during the siege preparation, an army of almost 1,000 men attacked our siege camp. We were outnumbered 2-1, but no chance will we turn and run in the face of battle. Also, how fucking cool is this shit? a white as fuck snowy ass plane. This is cinematic as fuck. And if I do another video, just know I'll be playing with mods, because we can get some real cool shots of this shit. We painted the snow red that day, red with blood, crimson, like that one superhero from that one show. Anyway, we killed quite a lot of the Vlandians before they even managed to run away, and obviously that makes me very happy. Once the battle was won, we continued with the siege. Next was to retake Pencarum, and once that was done, we moved on to Abcoma Castle, which had actually become a Battianian stronghold once again. We retook the castle with fierce close quarters fighting, and the final Vlandian controlled Battianian castle was Umthem, the first Battianian castle that we actually took. What a twisted turn of fate. Now that the Vlandians had been cleared out of Battianian lands once again, obviously not me, I'm their rightful king, that left us with one castle to take. Remtoli Castle, a castle under the control of the Empire. With all of this lands, it provides power, and power that I shall wield to rid this land of the Empire. They can have the other stuff, just not the Battianian lands. That belongs to the English. We took the castle with fierce fighting, or at least the bit that I was involved in was fierce. So fierce, in fact, that I died. Anyway, once the siege was completed, my goal for the video was completed. A united land of Vlandians and Battianians under the same banner, the Kingdom of England. Dom's life goal complete. The video ended. Unless you want to see more, let me know. If you want another video on Dom, the King of the English, or maybe just a Bannerlord mod, or even a completely different game, let me know. And genuinely, if you're still watching the video, I appreciate it so much. I hope you will watch some of my future videos and maybe some of the past ones too. Yeah, thank you so much for making it to the end. I appreciate you watching. Have a great day.